Well, welcome back, everybody. This is the last session on our little talks on life after death, and it's a summary of what we've considered so far. And if you remember, in part one, we spoke about the experience of my wife passing from this world into the next world, and we mentioned that she had no fear of death because we had read in the Baha'i writings that Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, had said, "We've made death a messenger of joy unto thee, wherefore dost thou grieve? I made the light to shed on thee its splendour. Why dost thou veil thyself therefrom?" So there's no fear of death. The next world is full of joy and gladness, we mentioned, for those who live in a spiritual way. And this life is just a workshop where we prepare for the life to come. And everything in life is a preparation for the next stage. So we learn many things. We learn here to align our lives with spiritual understandings, attitudes, thoughts, and lifestyles. And that's our preparation for the next life. This preparation is the working out of coming back to God, in actual fact, that we all come from God and we return to God. And that's spoken of by all the great spiritual teachers. The soul came into existence, we mentioned, at the time of conception. And then we, the soul, we are on its eternal journey back to God. In part two, we covered the existence of ourselves in the world prior to being born, in the womb of our mother. The world beyond, we were told from the Baha'i writings again, the world beyond is as different from this world as this world is different from the child in the womb of its mother. And we were preparing in our mother's womb to come into this world. But this was without any effort on our part. No conscious decisions were made as to where or what to develop. Now in this world there is a huge difference, and we mentioned that we have to make conscious decisions here about how to prepare for the next life. We also mentioned that all the great teachers from God have come to tell us what to develop for the next life. We can choose to listen and put into practice this knowledge, or conversely, we can choose not to listen. When we choose not to listen, we become heedless. We may decide not to listen, as we may believe we are just a physical body, therefore we don't have a soul, it doesn't exist, and therefore there is no next life, no world beyond in which a non-existing soul goes into. But we mentioned that this is a materialistic way of thinking, and materialists only believe that in physical things, only physical things exist. And what could be termed an intellectual reality, these are non-physical things that exist alongside physical things, but they're termed intellectual realities. And we mentioned, for instance, that a potato exists physically, and you can hold it in your hand. However, wisdom also exists, but is only comprehended by our intellect, as it has no physical existence. You cannot put patience into a cup, we said. So our soul has no physical reality. The soul is connected to the body, we mentioned, like the sun is connected to a mirror. If the mirror ceases to exist, it does not mean the sun ceases to exist. So if the body dies, the soul lives on. In part three, we mentioned some of the proofs of the existence of a soul and of a non-physical world we call the world beyond. And we brought forward the experience of when we go to sleep at night and said that sleep is brother to death. And we have an experience of what it's like to be in the next world. We also mentioned that there were dreams of some future events that many people have had, and we related the soul-stirring story about the Aberfan disaster, where Errol Mai Jones, that little girl, had a dream about this event before it happened, and we brought forward this as a proof of the existence of another world apart from this world. These proofs of spiritualities are inside ourselves, we said, and we have to learn to read these spiritual realities. And we said that it's important to read the book of our own selves, because this is where all these realities are. In part four, we focused on those souls that had near-death experiences and outlined their basic experience. They had the out-of-the-body experience, and they came into the presence of a being of light when they were out of the body. And they had a life review, and they were enveloped by the light that helped them go through this life review. And the being of light asked them two questions: have you loved unconditionally like I love you? And made them understand that they have to keep on learning and avoid stagnation. And the best type of learning is that which is spiritual in nature, which brings us closer to our Maker. coupled with how to make our contribution to society to enable it to advance. Virtually all want to stay with the being of light, and unfortunately they couldn't do that, and they were forced to come back to their own bodies reluctantly. They came back and carried on with their life, but in a way in which they never feared death anymore. Part 5, we related, again, still on the theme of the existence of the soul outside the body, out-of-body experience. And we related the story about the multi-vehicle pileup, and the gentleman who was in that crash came out of his body and was uplifted by the prayers of a woman who was praying back at the crash there. And he wanted to find her and traced her through her registration plate number, and thanked her for that. We looked into the concept of progress, must look at life and ask whether we're making progress spiritually, and that we're here to make spiritual progress. And if we don't, then we become like a stagnant pool, which can be harmful. To develop spiritually, we need to focus on heavenly characteristics for our own happiness and the happiness of others. And we introduce developing qualities such as loving kindness, patience, wisdom, hope. And we are involved in the process of becoming more perfect, become patient as our Lord is patient. Part 6, we focused more on these qualities, and we called them, Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, called them gems of inestimable value. And these gems, we mentioned before, wisdom, kindness, love, patience, justice, and contentment, humility, and so on, that these are within our soul, like a seed has all the potential within its structure. And the seed needs the sunshine for all the potential to grow. Similarly, we need the love and the teachings of God to enable us to break out of our shell and to grow into whatever plant or a construct God has destined for us. And we said that God is like the sun, and the messengers of God, like Krishna, Muhammad, Buddha, Jesus, Moses, Christ, and in this day and age we would say Baha'u'llah. These are all the sunshines for various days, and their sunshine enables us to grow and develop. And the messengers of God have a twofold purpose, all of them. And one purpose is to prepare us for the next life, to ascend with the utmost purity, sanctity, and detachment to the throne of the Most High. And the other purpose is to carry forward an ever-advancing civilization. And if we make our contribution to an advancing civilization, then we are surely developing those spiritual qualities for our happy state of being in the next world, and to be of service, in this world and the next world is one of the main themes of all the religions. Part 7, we focused on the fact that we are to carry forward an ever-advancing civilization, so as we naturally make our contribution to the world and prepare for the next world. And we mentioned that our contribution, our main contribution we can make to the betterment of the world is, as Baha'u'llah says, is to contribute to the unity of mankind, to build up united communities of service and love for God. And the purpose of this, to be in unity, is to change this hell-like condition on earth into a heavenly condition. We mentioned that we are to avoid destination addiction and concentrate on spiritual behavior. The messengers of God have come to detach us from a materialistic way of living, and therefore our souls need to be free from the things of this world to serve others with unconditional love. Part 8, we related a story about my brother's passing into the next world, Peter, who died through an accident. He accidentally electrocuted himself, and this led us to our family to asking questions about what is life about. Is there meaning to life? Is there life after death? And we, through extensive searching, we found the Baha'i writings. And we found some of the stories in the Baha'i writings directly related to what we were searching for. And we told a story about a mother who was consoled by Abdu'l-Baha after the death of a child. And the child had been, he said that the child had been transplanted to another garden of God more suited to his growth. And the gardener is our kind Heavenly Father. And there's a wisdom behind this transplanting, because that child could then grow in an environment more suited for its growth. None would want to stay in this world. We spoke of if the veils separating this world from the next was removed. Then we also explained about the dream of a woman who met her daughter in one of the gardens of God as a mature young lady. The child had died as a tiny girl and grown up there. We also spoke about miscarriage of children. They grow up into the next world, in the next world, and develop there. We also related the story of a husband who had died, and the wife was being looked after by a husband in the next life, similar to her looking after the flowers in her beautiful garden. When we pass away, it is the start of our journey throughout all the worlds of God. It says in the Baha'i writings that the worlds of God are countless in number and infinite in range. We also related the story about the death of a son and mentioned he had not been lost, he is not of the lost, and she, the mother, will find him in the divine realm. Also mentioned that agitation and mourning deeply affect the soul of souls that have gone into the next world. There is a relationship we mentioned between this world and the next world, and when conditions change here to become more heavenly, then absolute healing will take place. Abdu'l-Baha speaks, and we will mention these stories from Abdu'l-Baha mostly, and he speaks from experience of losing 4 of his sons in infancy. So he was no stranger to grief and sorrow and suffering, and of dearly loved ones passing into the next world. The last part, we focused more so on preparation. That means we have to aspire to becoming a confident believer in the next life. Death proffereth to every confident believer the cup that is life indeed. It bestoweth joy and is the bearer of gladness. We have to realign our lives with the exhortations of the manifestations of God to become confident believers in the next life. And we focused on 7 points of preparation ready for the world beyond, our heavenly home. The first point was through the knowledge of God, which comes to us through the teachings of the great manifestations of God. The second was through the love of God, and the messengers of God bring the love of God to us, even as the rays of the sun bring its heat and light to us. The third point of preparation is through faith, and we mentioned faith is described as conscious knowledge and the practice of good deeds. The fourth point was through philanthropic deeds, to contribute our good deeds to help others. The fifth point of preparation was through self-sacrifice, to give of a lower condition to a higher spiritual condition, as a seed sacrifices its condition to grow to something better. The sixth point of preparation was through severance from this world, and we mentioned the story of our souls created like a bird that can fly, but unfortunately becomes attracted to this world and gets stuck to, metaphorically, the branch fearing to fly. And severance from this world enables us to fly in the world of love and understanding, wisdom and knowledge. And the last point was through sanctity and holiness. That if we can live a life of sanctity and holiness, then that's a significant preparation for the next world. And also mentioned that sanctity is, to be sanctified, is that our lives should be set aside for the service of God. Those were the main points that we went into. There are many, many more points. I'd like just to finish on a little quotation here from the Baha'i writings. And it says that the mysteries of which man is heedless in this earthly world, those he will discover in the heavenly world, and there he will be informed of the secrets of truth. How much more will he recognize or discover persons with whom he hath been associated? Undoubtedly, the holy souls who find a pure eye and are favored with insight will, in the kingdom of lights, be acquainted with all mysteries and will seek the bounty of witnessing the reality of every great soul. Even they will manifestly behold the beauty of God in that world. Likewise, they will find all the friends of God, both those of the former and recent times, present in the heavenly assemblage. And just before we leave, I'd like to just let you know that Baha'is around the world, we have We have times that we get together, thousands of little meetings in our homes. We call them study circles, where we discuss, where we go into some of these Baha'i understandings from the writings of Baha'u'llah and Abdu'l-Baha about life after death, and other very wonderful things as well. And we invite you all, if you found this interesting, to find a Baha'i in your area and perhaps get involved with a study with that Baha'i. And no doubt that your life will become uplifted and take on a greater meaning and bring greater happiness to it. Hopefully you enjoyed everything. I've enjoyed certainly sharing with you my understandings from the Baha'i writings.